Alrighty guys, this is snugsonblitz and I'm back with another video for you today. Today we're going to be looking at the worst 5 tanks in tier 7. I did this last year and I think it's time to revisit it. Why? Well, people want to know. They want to know which tanks to avoid, which tanks are not worth spending their hard-earned money on or their credits that they earn, because tanks are expensive over time. You're buying all these tanks. It is tough, especially tiers 9 and 10. I mean, just equipping your tank in tier 10 is like 3 million or something like that. I forget the numbers, but yeah, I mean, credits disappear, and so people want to know what tanks they should avoid. Last year, in the top spot was the KV3, but it turned out I was actually using the wrong gun. It was fully loaded when I first used it, and it was great, but with all the new premium tanks, it turns out that the other gun was better. So I put out another video to apologize that the KV3 was actually better than I thought, only because one of my subs suggested the other gun. So thank you there. Anyway, I have a game for you in this tank, the Bulldog. Will it make my top 5 of worst tanks in tier 7? You'll just have to find out. But it is a pretty good game. It's entertaining. Basically, I'm just trying to stay alive. I abandoned one of my teammates. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I really didn't think he was going to hold, and I thought we would get ripped apart. So I just disappeared across the map. And it turned out to work for us. So sometimes just staying alive can be the best thing you can do for your team. Just hiding. I'm serious. I know it sounds stupid. Anyway, before we get to today's game, I would like to ask, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free, as you know. It's just a click. And I put out a video a day, so, you know, you get a lot of stuff from me. On top of that, if you are a subscriber, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Please tell your clanmates, tell your buddies that I have pretty good stuff, I think, especially for the newer or not super pro players in the game. Of course, if you would like to donate to the channel, you can do so by clicking in the description below, the links in the description below. There are 2 choices. There's a Patreon with 4 different tiers and a one-time donation with PayPal. If you want to do that, that's cool. Much appreciated to those who have done that already. Anyway, let's get to today's game. Okay, I'm worried about, well, pretty much everything. This is a tough game for me. Tiger 2 armor, Carnivon armor, even the CC 56 has got armor, so I'm going to do some spotting, and yeah, it's not going to go according to plan. Anyway, you can watch that. But we're going to start off with my number 5 tank. So I put all the tanks through the paces. I saw how people were playing them in game, and I think my list is pretty fair. So I apologize if your tank is in here. Some people might like these tanks, some people might hate them. You know, everyone has a different playstyle, so, you know, it's just my opinion which tanks I think a lot of players struggle with and are hard to play. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get to number 5 on my list. Coming in at number 5, we have the IS-2. Yes, normally I wouldn't give relatively heavy, the armored tank, place in the bottom 5, but I have to make an exception for the IS-2 because the gun handling is pretty atrocious. You cannot sit back in this tank and snipe. You will miss every freaking shot you shoot, pretty much. You have to go front line, and the armor is decent, but the reload is pretty painful. The saving grace on this tank is the gun does hit pretty hard. I honestly hated the tank when I played it, but I pushed it hard, and I had actually very good stats in it. But don't think my stats are what you will get in the tank. It's just a rough tank to play. Don't see many players do well with it, especially the newer / average player in the game. So yeah, I'm going to give it to the IS-2. And here's where I decide that I'm going to get the heck out of dodge, because I do not think that guy will be able to hold. The Ferdinand's in a bad position as well. So yeah, I think this is a loss. I'm going to help my team on the other side. Anyway, coming in at number 4, I'm going for the Juto. Now the Juto is another heavy tank. So 2 heavy tanks in the bottom 5, that is very rare indeed. But the reason I have to put it here is because it doesn't feel like a heavy. It's reasonably slow. The gun doesn't hit hard. It's not that maneuverable. The armor doesn't really work, especially against those tier 8 tanks. I mean, you can pretty much shred this tank. It's hard to do really well in this tank, and it's very hard to carry it. I don't see many newer players, average players, do well in this tank because it's not got much going for it. It's not the worst tank in the world, but it's just got nothing special about it, which is a problem. You want a tank that's got something. I mean, at least the Bulldog here, it's got speed. It's got frickin' speed. The Pen is pretty good too, especially if you can get around them. And DPM is great, so boom, here I go. Anyway, that's my fourth pick. Coming in at number 3, and yes, I'm going with the WZ-131. Why? No frickin' armor. And speed is only good if you know how to handle it. There used to be a saying, we used to say, speed kills. And yes, it definitely does. If you do not know what you're doing, you can absolutely get in a lot of trouble. It can also get you out of trouble, but if you don't know what you're doing, then it will cost you massively. So the WZ-131 comes in my 3rd place. Coming at number 2 is the VK30.02, and this tank has been buffed, but it still needs something. It is such a horrible tank to play. It doesn't move well. It's a medium, but doesn't move really well. I mean, it's okay, but it needs a little bit more speed. The armor doesn't really work unless you're playing against tier 6 tanks. You're often against tier 8 tanks. I mean, going against a Shark or a Cent Mark 1, Tronwagen, I mean, good luck. If they're hull down, you know, Ramo just doesn't do it. I can't pen the tanks in certain positions at all. I can't even HE, you know, it's like 10 damage or something. So there's no point in using HE. So the tank is useless in my opinion, especially for newer players. But they must get so frustrated playing this tank if they have to go against tier 8, and they will quite quickly. So for goodness sake, avoid this tank at all costs in my opinion. Lastly, coming in at number 1, I'm giving it to the Panther M10. Yeah, this is a premium tank that nobody buys. It's given away in special containers, you know, weekly containers or whatever, I forget what they're called. And a little bit of RAM here. Nice. Yeah, you can ram an SP1C. So I didn't do much damage that game. I did, how much did I end up with? 928, pretty pathetic. But somehow my team was able to pull that out. I did not expect that. KV3, he really carried us, so much respect to him. And I thought they really had that in the bag. I thought it was kind of a throwaway game. I just had a little bit of fun. Oh, IS2, good job as well, yeah. Oh, and SU was good job too. But yeah, the Panther M10, it's got nothing going for it. The gun stinks, the mobility's okay, armor stinks, yeah, you know, it's got no intimidation factor, nothing. So, the new reigning champion of the worst tanks in Tier 7 is the Panther M10. Do you agree with my bottom 5? What are your bottom 5? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I do try and answer every comment I get, positive or negative. Anyway, that's all I got for you. I'll see you next time. Snugs on Blitz, out.